Now, just a little perspective and context here. Last year, the Arizona Cardinals, Michael, finished 11-6. Remember, they opened the season 7-0, and then they went, and there was obviously something amiss when they went to the Rams in that wild card game because they weren't into it. The coach wasn't into it. The quarterback wasn't into it. And here we go. In January, DraftKings opened the Cardinals Super Bowl odds at 25-1. Those were the 13th best odds in the NFL. Their win total was set at 8.5. They're 4-8, and they're on a bye. And there's been drama. One thing I will say, and I'll let you run with this. Kyler Murray, that was concerted. That was a power play when he went to the podium and said, schematically, we're effed. Remember, the Cardinals extended Kingsbury. They extended Kyler Murray. Murray looks like he wants a new head coach. Murray has been questioned as far as, is he selfish? Patrick Peterson went on Bryant McFadden's podcast and said this.
Kyler Murray don't care about nobody but Kyler Murray. That's just a matter of the fact.
Well. I got
to.
I can't argue that. I don't know him personally. You played with him for a few years, so I got to take your word for it.
He did. He played with him, Patrick Peterson, in 19 and 20. Let's start there. Were you shocked that a player amongst the fraternity would call out another player?
Well, I mean, I applaud him for it. I don't know Brian McFadden, played at the Steelers, a Florida State kid. We've had him on the Lombardi line before, but, he said he didn't know. If you watch the games, he has no connection to his teammates. Just pay attention to the game. You've been an NFL player your whole life. I mean, you know what it's like. I was listening to Todd Bowles talk to his team about connectivity, about accountability, and he said, look, guys, this isn't a job. You did this for free in high school, And so because you did it for free in high school, now that you're getting paid doesn't make it a job. And how you interact with your teammates is no different than when it was in high school. I don't understand why people are surprised by Patrick's comments. I mean, we've been saying it on the Lombardi line for over a year. We've been saying it on the GM Shuffle for 2 years, 3. I mean, it's never been. You ask any of his ex-teammates, and I've got texts from people that played there, that nobody has a good word to say about him as a teammate. I'm not talking about as a human being. That's a separate issue, right? I don't know what his private life's like, and I don't really care. I know what I see and what I hear in terms of the interaction. And then when he throws the coach under the bus, the coach who got him paid, let me ask you this question. That contract, who could they trade that contract to? Who wants that player?
Nobody's taking that player. Nobody's taking that.
I mean, he stands up there like he's like, oh, my God, everybody wants me and my 6.1 yards per attempt average. Like, seriously, Kyler? I mean, that's what we want. We want, do you understand that the reason you can't play very good right now is because people rush you a certain way? And because they rush you a certain way, it's challenging? I mean, if Hopkins didn't come, I mean, do you realize Hopkins is the leading receiver on this team and he missed 6 games?
Well, Kyler Murray fired back. So this was last night when Peterson said Kyler Murray don't care about nobody but Kyler Murray on the podcast. 3 hours later on Twitter, Kyler Murray said, this isn't true. You want some weird S, P2, Peterson, that's his handle. You got my number. If you really felt like this is a big bro or a mentor, you're supposed to call me and tell me, not drag me so your podcast can grow. So that was Kyler Murray's response. The way that it works in social media, everybody's going to hear everything. He heard it and he responded. So there's his response. Any response to his response?
I don't have any, but I could applaud Peterson for saying what people should that cover the sport, that have watched the sport, should say if they see it. It's not being malicious. It's just look, Buda Baker's out there. Every teammate's out there. You don't go out. What does that tell you? You were not getting tended on the sideline to an injury. You sat there. You made a decision, a conscious effort to stay there as if you didn't care. What does that tell you? Every other Cardinal teammate was out there worried about their teammate. You weren't. You sat on the bench. How do you defend that?
Can't defend it.
How do you defend that?
Can't defend it. He does seem to be a bit of an introvert, like a person that keeps to himself, an introvert. But this is bigger. He manipulated the organization into paying him, as you mentioned. He got paid, and now he's exerting his power. And he's exerting his power. Like, for example, not going out on the field, that's calculated. He knows people are going to talk about it. going after the coach, that was calculated. Like, you're going to have to deal with a lot over the next, how many more years left on this contract extension? There's a lot to go here.
You know, it's funny because on the podcast today, we talked about what would you do if you're Denver? You know, and one of the things you have to do if you're Denver is have an honest conversation. And this is something that I don't think has been having with Kyler Murray. I mean, you know, they didn't put that clause in his contract because he was a hard worker. I mean, they didn't put that clause in his contract because he was watching so much tape that they didn't have to worry. That just didn't appear. That was negotiated and agreed to by all parties because it wasn't happening. And now you're trying to defend yourself? You could say, oh, once the media found out it wasn't fair, you know, you're being hard on the quarterback. No, you're not. It was negotiated by both parties. It was agreed to. You signed the contract. It didn't get slipped in there. Your agent, who represents everybody in the building, agreed to it. He had to tell you he agreed to it because you were going to have to comply to it. And all of a sudden, then they take it away. They're scared to death of this player. They're scared. Nobody tells this kid the truth. So they've created their own monster. They've created their own problem.
And the stipulation in the contract was that homework edict, right? Where they said you have to
do some work, to care about the team. You know, it's funny on the Daily Coach today, you know, when I went down to Australia, we talked about, I spent some time with Alistair Clarkson, who's the Bill Belichick of Australian rules football. He's won 4 premierships. You know, he changed teams. He got fired at Hawthorn. Now he's at North Melbourne, the greatest nickname of all time, the Kangaroos. And he had a team meeting. And he basically said, fellas, we live in a world where I'm going to try to change a me culture into a we culture. And he was brutally honest. He said, hey, it's not about can you play footy. Well, everybody can play footy, but can you play footy the right way? Kyler Murray can play football, but does he play it the right way? Does he play it to a winning level? Of course he doesn't.
What preceded the question, or what preceded Peterson calling out Murray, was Bryant McFadden asked Peterson, do you think Kingsbury is going to be used as a scapegoat? And then that's when Peterson said, Kyler only cares about Kyler. Do you feel as though Kingsbury's being used as a scapegoat, or has he done a poor job with a 4-8 team?
I mean, of course he is. He's taking all the blame. Every media member kills him. They all kill Cliff. And he's an easy guy to kill because he wasn't successful at Texas Tech. He got put in that job there. He was going to be the offensive coordinator at USC.
Correct.
You know, I mean, he got put in the job. He's easy to. But how about Steve Keim? How does he not take this? Like, the 2 people that did the worst contracts in all of football last year were Denver with Russell Wilson and Keim with him. And nobody gives Keim any crap. His team's terrible. A.J. Green is not even he's out there. I know he was once a great player. He averages 6.7 yards a catch. You brought him back. You signed him. Like, tell me why you're any good as a team. This team's never been good. I mean, you drafted Josh Rosen. If it wasn't for Kingsbury, you wouldn't have had it. And then you go pay this guy $250? Come on.
Great question you guys brought up on the GM Shuffle. Who's got it worse? Just all things considered. Denver with Russell moving forward, or Arizona with Kyler moving forward? That's a tricky one because there's a lot involved.
I would say Arizona.
Both humans.
I would say Arizona because this kid is impossible to deal with. I don't think this kid's easy to deal with. I'm not saying Russell is, but I would have a hard time dealing with. I would have a hard time going to the stadium every day and watching Kyler Murray play based on his attitude towards what it takes to win a championship.
And Murray's young. He's only going to get more petulant and defiant.
He's rich, too,
really
Patrick. Don't forget that.
And he's rich,
too.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.